How everybody doing? How everybody doing? Okay, well, my name is DeMarcus Crump. I'm kind of like a finance aficionado. If you look that up, that's kind of like I'm like a finance expert. I'm 25 years old. I've been doing this for about 3 years. I've never had a job in like 4 years. This is all that I do. I kind of got inspired from my uncle, but I'm from Miami, Florida. Dade County, if anybody ever went down there, South Beach, anybody ever been? Raise your hand. Okay, so everybody know about Miami. But I moved up here when I was 10 years old with my mom. I kind of never had, like, I wasn't paying bills, so I kind of didn't have a say-so. Anybody know how that works? So I came up here and kind of got inspired through my uncle, who was kind of making some money moves himself, and nobody in my family was kind of doing the same thing. So I kind of wanted to make an impact how he was making an impact in the family. Because nobody never ever blessed the family, how he's blessed the family so before, and I wanted to kind of follow his footsteps. So he taught me the game of everything that he knows. So through what it is that I do, I kind of like financially impacted a lot of communities within inside of Georgia, more so to say, because I deal with some things like insurance, and especially when it comes down to investments, all kind of things like that. So I'm kind of like a finance expert. Does that make sense? But again, my name is DeMarcus Crump, and I'm gonna just pass it right on along.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lakeisha Landers. First and foremost, I want you all to know that I am an educator. I'm very passionate about education on all levels, whether it's financial literacy, learning about health, mental stability, all of the above. I'm all about education. But my form of education, of what I educate, is financial education. So I'm the financial literacy director of Clark Atlanta University. Yes, thank you.
Give it up for Clark Atlanta.
Yes, and then I am a proud founder and owner of the new startup, Timeless Connections and Company. It's a new startup nonprofit organization, and pretty much my role is to provide opportunities for the communities and also for small business owners to barter services to help community members, families, and the surroundings to become more economically sustainable living. So I provide financial education with Clark Atlanta University, and I help and give back into the communities with our small business owners and community members.
Awesome. I'm Rafael Maldonado. I am the creative director at It Media Collective. We are a video production agency that helps brands communicate their mission to the public. So first and foremost, I'm a storyteller, I would say. My whole life, been a storyteller. But just really noticed that the best way for us to learn from each other's experiences and lives and even lessons that we all learn from each other is from stories. And so I kind of have a happy medium in what I do on a daily basis, which is being able to help people tell stories and connect them with people who can identify themselves within those stories. So I've been a creative for a long time, but I started this venture about a year ago. And this is the third business that I started. The first one was a nightlife company called Clubber. And I thought it was so cool, man. I got it because I was 21. I wanted to be in nightlife. I wanted to be in the clubs. I wanted the bottles. And that for me was like, man, I'm successful. But pretty quickly, after being in that life and being in that scene, I started to realize that that's not really what I'm about. And that was really when I discovered that I needed a certain purpose. I needed a mission to do what I'm doing because I wasn't proud of who I was in the process, and I wasn't proud of putting that name on my sleeve and saying that I'm in nightlife. So that led me to my next venture, which I started with my girlfriend, which is called Hack My Potential. We basically help people with identifying what their talents and strengths are. So through this strengths-based assessment, we help you figure out, hey, these are the 5 things that you can identify and understand as your talents, and then be able to develop them alongside you through some coaching that we help guide you guys with, and hopefully be able to use those in your everyday life. And so the combination of the first business teaching me that I needed a mission-driven life, and the second, which is actually applying that in the real world and helping young people, the third one really was a selfish and selfless combination where I was able to scratch my creative itch of doing something new every single day and being able to help communicate these stories and obviously be around the camera and be around people and just connecting on camera. But at the same time, the selfless part being able to add value to those businesses that we help and help them connect with their consumers and help move the needle, not just have something that looks pretty, help them drive sales and whatnot. So in a nutshell, that's who I am. Did I get my time? Good? All right. Cool. So pass it on.
How you doing? How are you all doing? Awesome, beautiful, beautiful. I know you've been asked that question 1,000 times today. So my name is Davion Zaire. I go by Zai or Zaire, whichever is more comfortable for you. When I was 12, I had a dream of this island where there was no such thing as money. It was literally just the way that it functioned, the way that it operated was that you were a doctor because you genuinely wanted to nurture people. You were a chef because you wanted to prepare. You were an artist because you just had this urge, this calling, this something that itch, as he described it, to create. And so ever since that dream, I woke up and the last words that I heard in that dream was that I was a bridge builder. And so my entire life, I've built my whether it be businesses, my art, my work, my actions around the mission of being a bridge builder to a world where people are able to do what they love while being who they are. And so some of the ways that I've been able to do that, I started out doing some community building even back in high school. I got to work with the National Children's Defense Fund to build programs for inner city students to gain access to people that look like us that we didn't know could do the type of things that they were doing, so that we had examples. And then from then, I built a community. I went to Emory at 16. Prior to going to Emory, I went to 13 schools, moved around the country a ton. But in that experience at Emory, if anybody knows what Emory University is, okay, ooh. So that's cool. It's known for like law, medicine, all that stuff, which obviously I'm not talking about necessarily those things right now. But I ended up building community around culture and creatives. And so what ended up happening while I was there was I built this community. It grew to over 350 students. Word started catching on at other schools of like the type of work that I was doing there. And actually one day through this experience, we passed out stickers. The stickers got plastered all over campus. And because those stickers got plastered, I got fined $50,000 by the school. I got a letter from the president saying you owe us $50,000 in vandalism charges. And so obviously I responded to that letter. I said, hey, I don't have $50,000 to give you. One. Two, I'm not responsible for this. And three, I think we're missing the bigger picture that there's a culture, there's an affinity for things that the school's not answering to. And so that $50,000 vandalism fine got turned into me getting paid by the school to think about creativity and innovation and how they could actually cultivate better community around it. Wow. And from that moment, I started to think, well, how can I start to build more communities and then leverage that and scale this so that it's not just limited to wherever I am, because I need to build things that when I'm gone, it's not contingent upon my existence. And so I started thinking about something called Culture Base. This is what I do today. Culture Base is a platform that enables, so the same way that Spotify and Netflix curate music and movies, Culture Base curates local products and experiences. So if you make dope clothes, art, jewelry, you do experiences in the city, we're now creating more market access for you so that people have an easier discovery experience. So let's say somebody goes to the airport, they come first thing to Atlanta, normally they'll hear about Coca-Cola or the aquarium. But with Culture Base now they'll hear about you. And the same thing for people that we're just all in the area. I didn't know any of you in this room today, but Culture Base streamlines that connectivity so that the community has more economics flowing through it as opposed to just popular corporations. We're doing our rollout this summer, and that's sort of a brief introduction of myself. Okay. Good evening.
Woo! Awesome.
1 minute introduction.
How's everybody doing today? How's everybody doing today? Listen, I know it was slightly after 2. We've had lunch. We've been up all day. It's been a long day, and it's hot outside. I know it's very hot outside, so I just want to make sure we got some energy in the room. I'm excited to be here today. My name is Kadeem Dunwell. I'm founder and CEO of Young Entrepreneurs of Atlanta, but I consider myself a humble servant. Grew up here in the city of Atlanta, graduated from the best high school ever constructed in the world, the high school being the great Southwest DeKalb High School. I was in the band, attended Florida A&M University, where I studied business marketing, and I had a minor in journalism. It was while I was in college, I became frustrated. I became frustrated because while I was advancing in my writing skills and learning that I love journalism, I wanted to start a magazine, and I didn't know anything about the basics of business. I didn't know how to go get a business bank account. I didn't know how to go online and pay $100 for an LLC. I just did not know the basics, and it frustrated myself. It frustrated my roommates who wanted to go into business for themselves as well. And even more frustrating, when we thought about the thousands of dollars we were paying to attend business school, and we were learning how to go work for someone else and not how to create a business for ourselves. So as we started to find mentors within the community that had their own businesses, and we started to create revenue for ourselves, we said, hey, when we go back home, we're going to create a program that allows high school students, our little brothers, little sisters, back home an opportunity to be able to learn the basics of business. That program turned into the Young Entrepreneurs of Atlanta Foundation, where we now run programs around the city of Atlanta. We're now in Richmond County, out in Augusta, as well as down in Albany and South Georgia. So now, I don't know, what else was it? That's it. So now we're here today at the Operation Hope Conference, and I want to say this before we get started. Number one, how many of you know the person sitting to your left? Just raise your hand if you know the person sitting to your left. Raise your hand if you know the person sitting to your right. George, can we do something? Do you mind? Can we do something? And we're gonna circle back around to this. If you know the person sitting next to you, can you move to sit by somebody that you don't know? And I'm gonna take can we take 2 seconds to do that? Just move and sit by someone that you don't know, just for 2 seconds. If you know the person sitting next, they know each other. Okay, just disperse. Like if you know the person sitting next to you, go find someone that you don't know. And that's very important, and I'm gonna tell you why. As we do that. Good. I know I said I was excited to be here today, but as I was getting ready this morning to come down, I started to think back to the young man, 21, 22 years old at that time, when I came home from Florida A&M University. My parents' home had burnt down, so we were staying at an aunt's house at the time. We didn't even have a home to come home to, barely. And this guy here, George, who attended the great Florida A&M University as well, we connected out of nowhere. I forget where we saw it. Yeah, out of nowhere, we connected. And he sent me a video. I was telling him, yeah, man, I got this magazine. It's pretty dope. It's online. We're doing all these crazy things. But at that time, we were starting Young Entrepreneurs. And he said, I want to send you this video about this guy who's doing something. It's for older folks, baby boomers primarily. But I think what he's doing is along the lines, I see you going there. And it was a video of John Hope Bryant in Operation Hope. And I'll never forget, I remember exactly what I was doing at that time. I was in my room, I was watching TV, and George sent me that video, and I watched this 14-minute speech from John Hope Bryant, and I said, oh my God, this man gets it. And for me to be here today on this stage with this guy that went to college at 16, and this gentleman who was popping bottles in the club, and CAU's finest, and everyone else, is truly a testament to not only just the law of attraction, but just, you never know where your journey will take you. And I'm thankful to be here. George, I appreciate you, man, for sending that video to me. And I know we're going to have a good time today. So clap it up for yourselves before we get started.
Now, just a point of personal privilege, the only reason he got so much time is I've known Kadeem for a very long time. And I think I've taught him everything he knows. And so, that stunt about moving you around is something I would have done years ago. But y'all, let's give it up for our guest today. So you've told us the good, the bad, and somewhat of the ugly. And oftentimes when we're in this space and at conferences, we hear, I'm doing this and I'm that. I could have come up and said I'm a 5-time author, a best-selling book, this and that, all that other stuff. But what is the real? Right? Can we get real in here?
Please.
What did you go through? What was the moment when you were at the lowest of lowest along the journey, transitioning from college or from the nightclub or from being a 19-year-old with a degree, finance, education? You have all of those things at your fingertips. What was it at that time that was your lowest moment, and how did you dig yourself out of that hole? And we'll just do this, and listen, 30-second responses.
You can't do that in 30 seconds.
30-second responses, give us the meat. Tell them, say, give us the meat.
Who first?
We'll start from my left.
I'm first. So the lowest of low is I was about 22 years old. I'm only 25, but I feel like I've done 30 jobs. There's nothing in here that anybody's worked that I feel like I haven't done before. So I've done everything from carpentry to everything, but we in 30 seconds. I can't get into all that. But the lowest is low, and I was making so much money. I didn't understand credit. I didn't understand anything, but I was just making so much money that I was getting anything that I wanted. So at that time, I was living in Buckhead in Atlanta. Had an apartment. I had, at the time, I think it was like 2016, I was driving a brand new 2016 Benz. It was a coupe on top of that. So at my age, you already know insurance was through the roof. But I always felt that if I don't speak, I don't eat, because in my business, I have to speak to people. So at that time, I was facing like almost gonna be a repo, almost gonna be, what they call it, eviction. I was gonna be evicted. But at the time, I just had to like overcome myself.
Good.
I had to overcome myself. Because there are things that everyone, that me and George was talking about earlier, things that people indulge in that we gotta kind of refrain from doing, and we have to discipline ourselves in order to get to where it is that we wanna go.
Perfect. Overcome yourself.
I like that too.
Overcome yourself. And I think many people here can all agree that is something that we have to do. You know, someone told me the other day, I was in Miami, and they said, well, you know, how do you, your city that's starting to keep telling you, how do you keep up with the Joneses? I said, I am the Joneses. I don't have to keep up, I set the bar. And the bar that we're setting doesn't have to be the level that someone else is comfortable with. It's the level that we know that we're capable of doing. And listen, when I moved to Atlanta, Kadeem can tell you, I was running the top young professional organization in the city and driving my Chrysler PT Cruiser. Everyone had a BMW, Mercedes, Land Rover, Range Rover, everything like that. And folks would say, how can this guy, mind you, at the time I still had a bestseller, how can this guy be over here driving this PT Cruiser? I've got a BMW now. Yeah. But how can he be driving this PT Cruiser and leading an organization as such? And I had to say that, you know, no one saw my car when I valeted. And when I'm in the event, no one knows what I'm driving. And that car, no matter what, was not going to get repossessed because it was mine, free and clear, and I was the only owner of that vehicle, only driver of that vehicle from the lot. So sometimes we have to live within our means and set the bar for where we are in our lives at that moment.
Okay, the lowest of the low. I'm about to share something real intimate with you guys.
Let's go there.
So if my business get out in the street, I know who told me. Okay? All right, so be ready for it. My lowest of the lowest is, what's this session called? The
Pathways to Bridging the Gap, the reality check.
The reality check. That was my lowest of the low. I'm going through a divorce. Just had a child, barely turned 1 year old. Have another child that's 7 years old. No husband, out the house. Just lost a job that was paying me over 6 figures to get a job that was paying me $45,000 a year. Only income in the house. What am I going to do? That was the lowest of the low for me, because that income that I had, the additional income, was gone. I couldn't count on it. I couldn't ask for it. I couldn't even have hope to see that I was going to get anything from it. And I'm an educated woman with multiple degrees. Understand, I just said I just came from a 6-figure job to making under $50,000 with 2 children in the house, going through a divorce. That's low. With nothing but bills in my name. Not his, mine. Because women like to be independent and in control of their own, right? Well, I was surely in control of my own, okay? But at that point, I didn't know who was guiding me, who was steering my wheel, because I had lost control. I was in the darkness. And what woke me up out of my darkness was my child saying, "Are you going to cook dinner for us today?"
Wow.
I was so lost that I'm not even realizing I'm not preparing dinners for my child. I'm just making sure they eat, but they don't have a home-cooked meal or anything. But you ever heard that saying, angel in disguise? You hear it in songs, you see it on TV, you don't think it's really real. You hear church people tell you, there's an angel in disguise, you know, God to do it. And you like, yeah, okay. But I had one. I didn't know this individual. At the new job that I got, this young lady said, you have something on your spirit and it's dark. I can see it, but I can tell that you have a good spirit. What are you good at other than what you're doing? I don't know. I'm an educated woman. All I know is what school has taught me, and that's to work for somebody. That's all I know how to do. That was the only way I knew how to earn. So she said, is there anything you could think of? I said, oh, I know how to cook. I live a healthy lifestyle. At that point in my life, I was vegan. So she helped me create an idea of my very first business that I actually was successful with. It was called Garden of Eden. It was a full wellness business. I sold herbs, teas, food. I did meal plans for people. I catered. But this is someone who did not know me. She helped me build my plan. She helped me with people to help me get my social media together. She helped me just get my business going. And once I started going, she said, you are free to fly on your own.
Wow.
She didn't ask for nothing. That was the best gift I could have ever had outside of my children. And I don't think any man at that point in my life could have filled what she did. She filled a void for me, and that was the lowest of the low, but then it brought me high.
Wow.
Wow. Go, girl. Wow. Tough to follow that up. That was incredible. It's a similar, I guess from the other perspective, probably definitely the most difficult period of my life was actually when my parents got divorced. And I was 15. I was in high school. It was like the time that, you don't see your parents in that way when you're at that age. You see them as your role models. You see them as your heroes, And even though they still are those, at that age, I was exposed to like the human side of them. I was like, wow, this is the parts that, when your parents teach you things your whole lives, these are some of the lessons that, through pain and suffering that you forget some of those lessons, right? And so I think from that age, I kind of took it upon myself to kind of take a course of action that I wouldn't necessarily recommend for everybody, but for me was, I'm just going to be independent. Like, I'm fine. I can do this by myself. And that was kind of where my, sense of drive as far as work, I was like working a lot. I was making my own money. I was in college. I was in this nightlife business. It was like a whole lot of things in my life that had kind of steered me away, because in reality I was hurting and I didn't really have an outlet to be able to speak to people about something that was happening at my house. And I was in high school and, getting ready for college. Y'all know how it is. Y'all are about to go to college or already in college. And so there was a whole lot of stress in my life, and it was very dark. It was a very dark place. But I think equally, like you said, sometimes the biggest challenges in your life end up being like just the biggest blessings that you ever had. And that doesn't necessarily mean you want to go and experience them again, but the person you become through that process is the blessing, And during that part of my life where I thought I was an alpha male and I want to do everything on my own and, I don't need anyone's help, really just drove me straight into a brick wall that says, you're not an alpha male and you need some help, like with the quickness. And so luckily, at that point in my life, I actually had, kind of turned my back on family. I was like, dude, I got to do this thing by myself, And I kind of made this 360, and I realized that success really is, to quote the great Maya Angelou, it's liking who you are, liking what you do, and liking how you do it. Mm-hmm. And the very first step for me was liking who I was, and that wasn't the case. And so just to fast forward through how this trial got me to become the man I am today, I'm an empathetic human. I can understand other people who are suffering and going through their own trials and tribulations, even though I can't personally identify with what they're going through. But we have a similar connection, right? I think we all have different circumstances, but there's similar feelings or similar scenarios of, asking, why is this happening to me? Do I deserve this pain? Who am I? What am I going to do? I feel so lost. And all that basically led me into, like I mentioned earlier, basically starting that second business, which was like, I want to commit my life to serving other people, to helping other people discover who they are, because I know what it feels like to be lost as hell. Like, I don't know who I was. And so that really kind of ignited the fire in me. allowed me to, have speaking engagements, be able to speak to students. I spoke at the Latino Youth Leadership Conference last year at Kennesaw State University in front of 2,000 kids. And just 2 years before that, I was lost. Like, I had no idea who I was. And so it's crazy how, sometimes you're in the thick of things and you don't know when it's going to end or when you're going to get to that next place. But I'm a spiritual person. I know God is good all the time. So I knew that what I was experiencing was molding me and helping prepare me for this moment right here. Like, to be able to share this and be able to hopefully connect with somebody who's going through their own trial. And I'm honestly extremely blessed to be able to speak on this panel that we're talking about the reality, right? Because I think when you talk about entrepreneurship, it's all about what I got, what I done, where I've traveled, how much money I made, the places I lived. And at the end of the day, like I told you, success is liking who you are, liking what you do, and liking how you do it. Yep. And so that challenge definitely brought me to that point in my life. So thank you. And I'll go ahead and pass it on.
So, how many people here have had money issues? Just by raise of hand. Money issues.
2 hands.
Okay. Wait. Okay. How many people here have had relationship issues?
Guilty.
Some people have had no relationship issues. Can you raise your hand if you have not had any relationship issues?
Oh.
I need to talk to you after. But I ask these questions because the question was about what's the lowest of your lows, and I feel like I can say that I've experienced the lowest of lows in many ways, whether it be being homeless at times, whether it be having not my bank account saying insufficient funds while I'm in the middle of showing someone an email, while I'm presenting something, whether it be being lied on and story spreads and it's just that's just completely not true, which is really heartbreaking when you know who you are, but that's not really being conveyed to people that may be around you. So there's a whole disconnect in terms of your environment and where you are internally. And so I say lowest of my lows in that way, and I'm not getting specific into any particular story, because almost every year there's a lowest of lows at some point. And it becomes a new low at different times. I mean, even just at the beginning of this year, and it's an interesting thing where people will see you as successful in certain ways, but inside you can feel so broken. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of difficult to talk about, just because of the fact that at the end of the day, no matter what the low is, it doesn't matter exactly what it is. It's about where you at internally, spiritually, as a person. Are you in alignment with yourself? Do you know who you are? Do you know what you're offering to this world? Are you happy with yourself? Those are the questions that we need to be able to understand, and that just takes taking time with yourself. Because you can have $1 billion and be completely empty inside. Completely. You can have $0 and also be empty inside. And you don't want to be in that situation either. But for me, it's been getting to a point in each of those low moments where I'm able to look myself in the mirror and say, am I alive? Am I focusing on the things that I feel like my heart is genuinely calling me to do today? And do I have the basic things that I need to be able to continue doing it? The reason why I say those things, being able to answer those things and say yes to each of those, is because whether you have $1 billion or $0, that purpose that you're walking in is going to manifest no matter what, no matter how much money. Somebody could try to put up a whole wall against you. We're talking about building walls in this country right now. It doesn't matter how big you build the wall if what you're walking in is truth, because nobody can move that. Nobody can shake it. Nobody can break it. And so I think that sort of reality has been something that's kept me going, and life's gonna throw different challenges. I don't know, maybe someday everything is taken away from me. But what do I still have? I'm still alive, and I'm still here for a reason, so I need to figure out what that is for that day, so.
Let's see, lowest of the low. Let's see. I'm listening to everyone's stories, and I don't know, I'm generally a pretty high energy guy, so I don't, like to delve down that lane too much, but I don't know, what is it, Damon John that says the power of broke? He talks about it a lot. what JHB, John Bryant says, you know, you do so much with so little for so long, you start to learn you can do almost, you know, anything with nothing. Being an entrepreneur, and I don't know, you guys let me know how you feel about this, even with the stories that you've all mentioned. It almost makes you feel like a superhero at times. Because there's mornings where you wake up and yeah, your bank account might have been low. And then by the end of the day, you start seeing numbers that you never thought you'd see and you don't know where they come from and how they got there. There's times where, you know, you wake up in the morning and you're so lost that you can't even walk right or talk right. But then there's those times when, and I love what you said, then there's those times where you center yourself and you recognize that at the end of the day, all you really have is you. And when I say you, I don't mean the perception of who you think people perceive you to be. You have what's truly you, that voice that talks to you inside your head. And I know what I had to learn in my lowest of lows is how to be nice to myself. I'm the type of person, and I realized this when my parents realized it, I realized it later on, but when I was young, you know, when you're young, you chastise young people. Why you do this? Why you do that? You know, and you think that you yelling at them makes them feel bad. Well, I was the kid who would yell at myself more than my parents or anybody else would yell at me. No one can make me feel worse than how it would make me feel about whatever it was I'd done. And what I had to learn in my journey was just how to be nice to myself. Because in life, we all make mistakes. In life, things happen that sometimes are in our control or aren't in our control. But in and out of every day, what we do have is life. We have breath in our lungs. We have an opportunity to be better and become better. So in my lowest of lows, what I've learned, because I can talk about being broke. I can talk about my parents. It was a period of time for 3 years where my parents, I would come home for Thanksgiving and my mother would be crying because they were getting a divorce for 3 years straight. You know, and ultimately they didn't, but that was just my life at a particular time. But what I learned in that time was how to speak nicely to myself.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
And how speaking nicely to myself and being able to be comfortable with myself really just mellowed out everything that was going on around me. So in my lowest of lows, just be nice to yourself. Or in your lowest of lows, be nice to yourself. And everything will be all right.
That's right.
Amen. Got straight heat up here, man. Straight heat up here.
I got going on.
I love it.
So I always like for us to take audience questions because you never know where someone's at or what they're thinking. And so in just a moment, if you have a question, if you could come, he'll get your microphone. Let me see if you have a question for anybody on the up here. Let me see your hands. We got one question there. Any others? All right, in just a moment. So after we're done, well, go ahead. Go ahead and ask your question. And who is it to? Ask your question and then say who it's to.
Who you're posing your question to.
It's kind of general, and whoever it speaks to,
There you go.
please jump out with it.
I like it.
Because what I hear, I'm an entrepreneur myself, and listening to all the entrepreneurial successes and failures and whatnot. So this is the thing. When the markets fluctuate, and people's fancies are different, the wave is always different. So sometimes I struggle with whether to continue to focus on the one business and keep pushing that home and pushing that home. And my thought process behind that is if you give that all of the time and attention it needs and requires, surely it has to break through. Now that's one mindset. Secondary to that is I better put more than one iron in the fire and try to diversify and drive more than one business at a time. And then your fear there is, does that main thing suffer? So it is trying to get the room's feel for, do we diversify as entrepreneurs or do we take that one thing and drive it home?
That's loaded.
And I think
Awesome
you'll get,
question. It's loaded.
I think you'll probably
Loaded
get
question.
seven.
It's loaded.
You probably get 7 different answers.
Yeah.
But I do want you to do one thing. And does anyone have a bottle of water? You have a bottle of water on your table? I want you to look at the side of that bottle of water. The side of the bottle of water, the one thing we would not expect to be on the side of the water is there. and that is an expiration date. Everything is not supposed to last always. The purest thing that we know is water, right? One of the purest things. Supposed to be, right?
Right.
That's why I say supposed to be. And even the bottled water that you consume has a shelf life. Not to say that the water can't be transferred from there and then purified again and put back into cycle, but in that current container, it has to be let go, right? And so as the climate changes and certain things change, you have to be able to adapt to what's going on. Because if you get stuck, you get left behind, right? The other thing here, and anybody who wants to piggyback on it can do that. If you have multiple streams of income, multiple things that you want to do, if one of the items is in Chicago, and the next is in Japan, and the other one is in St. Louis, and the following one after that is in California, if they're all over the place, there's no way they can connect, right? But if they are in line, they will connect. Does that make sense? So if you have a project, and I'm just using states because of the geographical map, but if there's something in California that can connect to the thing in Chicago, that you can do that's along the way to Atlanta, do you see the progression there? And so the thing in California, the season is pretty dope there all the time, right? You go to Chicago, it's very cold, so you're probably not going to be selling ice cream in the midst of the winter in Chicago. I mean, you might, right? Right? So you're adjusting per the style. I hope that answers your question. And if you guys want to jump in.
Okay. Can I? Oh.
Ladies first. You got it.
Ladies first? Okay, well, then I shall. So to answer your question, I think one of the simplest ways to look at it is how you define entrepreneurship. Because see, you could work for a living, work for a company and still be an entrepreneur. So you're not a business owner, you're just an entrepreneur. That means you're bringing in your own income for yourself. So you are your own boss, you are your own CEO. So in that case, based off your question, can you do those multiple things? Absolutely. And I will tell you, do not put all your eggs in one basket. You should have funds, money, income coming in from multiple places. Now, where it can fall apart on you at is that because you're spreading yourself, you're not offering enough of yourself to any one thing. So you can do a pretty poor job at whatever it is that you're saying you're an entrepreneur of, and whatever your services or what it is that you're trying to do professionally for yourself to bring in your income, and others will see that, which will also hurt your branding. So it's good to take those things in perspective, not to mention your responsibilities to your life, like what your day-to-day is like, what you're responsible for, what you're accountable for. You may not be able to do all those things. So I would just say first hone in on where you're truly passionate and stay with it for a while. And then at that point, if you see an opportunity to venture off into something else, go ahead. But yeah, all eggs in one basket, I would never tell you to do that.
So I'm kind of contrary to following opportunity for opportunity's sake. I wouldn't even call myself an opportunist in any sense of the word. The reason why I say that is because anything that I'm doing, I need to have a why. Mm-hmm. And I believe that anything, if everyone were doing things because they had a reason, things would probably make a lot more sense.
Yep.
And our world probably wouldn't be falling apart in a lot of the ways that it is today. Because unfortunately, a lot of people will pursue entrepreneurship for their self-gain, to make this much money, to hit this goal for a selfish, personal reason. Entrepreneurship is about offering a service to others. So if you're going to be providing a service or a product or something that's going to be benefiting the lives of others, then why are you the person for that? And if you have multiple things that are speaking to you, then I would say absolutely pursue those things. But if you don't have a strong enough why for why you're doing any one of those things to begin with, then I think that there's a disconnect, period. Because at some point you're not going to enjoy that particular business.
Agreed.
At some point your customer may or may not be satisfied. And ultimately you may be doing something that may not even be necessary. So like there's a train of thought in like the whole startup world right now called like customer discovery. There's tons of different terms for it. But the whole point of this process is doing research, asking genuine questions, actually going and talking to people to understand where's the genuine demand in the market. Not just projecting and assuming that things should be built. Not saying I'm going to build this building because it should be built, but actually understanding the kind of building that needs to be built by talking to people, or if a building needs to exist at all. I think we have too many things that are just completely unnecessary and people doing them that have no purpose behind it. So the end result is a purposeless world, because plenty of things exist that have no real genuine reason or function. So I would say whether you do 1 or 30 businesses at the same time, why? And can you genuinely answer that outside of material gain? If you can answer that outside of material gain, and your why is for a genuine reason, and you're answering a genuine problem, yes, go for it. 1,000 times.
It's good. Any other questions? Right here. One second. He's gonna bring you a mic.
I like
hear
where you're
you.
going so far.
Everybody wants
Sounds
to hear
great.
you.
We're better together.
Hey, I like it. I'm ready for it.
Thank you. We all know that we're better together. And as entrepreneurs and as we're developing our businesses, sometimes when we operate as a single, we don't evolve the best way. So I guess my question to you, both as you were up and coming, but now, what are the groups? What are the resources? Who do you gather around you to help you when you have questions for advancement?
Okay.
Trying to scale the company.
I think I have exceptional female in my life. My mom, my sister, my girlfriend, all entrepreneurs. And one thing that I learned from each and every one of them is that your pride should never be too big for you to ask help from somebody. And I think always being able to have people around you that can provide that alternative perspective, right? At the end of the day, you're going to get those 2 cents, and then it's your decision what you want to do with those 2 cents. But on the flip side, in a practical sense of running in the business, I'm in video production. So we need people who have different talents and skill sets, and collaboration is essential to any project and anything that we create. Right? We got the people that run the camera, the people who run the lights, people who run the audio, people that write the scripts, the person who's producing, getting things together. There's so many different pieces. And I think actually it's really convenient because right now we're living in a time where we know that collaboration is necessary, which is really great and really inspiring for millennials and Gen Z to know that we're more on each other's team. We're going to get more if we're on each other's team versus if we try and do all of our things separately. So I think for me and my personal perspective of, running my business in my film company, there's other people who have been in the business way longer than me that I can call and be like, dude, I have no idea what to charge this person, or I don't know like what I'm doing with this thing, or hey, do you have a camera that you can, it's just, I think a lot of it comes down to humility, and, there's a healthy sense of ego and there's the other side of ego. And I think when you can humble yourself to say, dude, I don't have it all figured out, I think that's actually what's going to actually build that bond and connection stronger with one another, which is why actually something like this is so powerful, because us actually being vulnerable is helping us connect with you guys, helping you identify yourselves in our own story. And at the end of the day, if we get more of those perspectives and hear more of those voices, besides instead of going like this and saying that I got all my stuff figured out, we're going to go way farther just individually and as a society, I think.
Yeah, I think Hillary Clinton said it best, we're stronger together. I don't know how it didn't resonate with everyone. No, I'm just saying.
I wanted to just add a bit on there. I agree with you 100% with everything actually that he said, because you have to think first, if you need help, no one knows unless you ask. So you have to put your pride aside. And if you know that there are certain things and certain levels and a scalability that you are seeking, you have to ask. You don't know. You can't assume that you know everything. So you shouldn't even have pride when it comes to that. You should be wanting to be at everybody's door saying, hey, can you help me? But we tell ourselves that, we look unprofessional, or we look like we don't know what we're doing when we go out and say we need resources, or we need help. You're standing in your way is what you're doing, because you're psyching your own self out. because people actually want to help you. That makes them feel good that they was able to help you get to the table of a deal. And they say, oh, did you get the deal?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, you happy for me? So like, yeah, I got you to the table, didn't I? So, I agree with him 100% that you should be asking. One of the things that I tell for Clark, what I designed, I developed a program for students to actually learn professional skills to leverage themselves with companies so they can get the high-paying jobs instead of being lowballed when it's time to be offered, these jobs when they graduate. But a lot of them needed help with certain things because, I may have had a biology major and they're like, what the hell does that have to do with financial education? But their counterparts that are in the program with them help them. They may have knew how to do the resume. They probably have gone on several interviews, so they help them train them up themselves. That's what they were called, peer counselors. So they help one another and learn to be there for one another. Now, in their mind, it has already been embedded. You cannot get far without reaching out to the person that's on the right and the left of you.
Amen.
And that's what we're trying to spread now.
And I'll just piggyback on that because it's really. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? All right, cool. This is really.
I don't think they can hear you in the back.
Can you guys hear me in the back?
And for the recording, they need it.
Once let me get it.
Oh,
Yeah,
for the media.
absolutely.
We gotta hear it. We gotta hear it.
Oh, that's what it is.
Otherwise, it
for
didn't
the
happen.
media folks.
Gotta be on the microphone.
All right, cool. You can hear me? We good? All right. No, and this is really important. And this goes back, I knew it always comes back to the exercise of making sure when you walk into a new room, you sit next to someone that you do not know. My mom used to say all the time, a closed mouth don't get fed, period. And I know the one thing that I had to learn, I'm a light-skinned kid born in the 90s. I'm everything Jodeci. I'm everything, I'm just very to myself. I don't do all that extroverted stuff. But I had to learn, and I tell George this all the time. We would go places, and George would be like, "Why are you so close to me? Like, go over there." And I'm a very introverted person. But the one thing that I learned in learning how to connect with others is that you'll be surprised how much you have in common with the person sitting next to you or with someone who you may consider to be a stranger. You will be very surprised. And I will honestly say that any success that I've ever had has always come from making a connection with someone who, at the time when an idea came into my mind, I did not know. What you're looking for is looking for you, period. The connections that I've been able to make in order to grow our business with young entrepreneurs or anything I've done from a personal side has all come from being in a room and speaking with someone whom I do not know. And maybe this person doesn't have the answer, but I guarantee you they know someone that does. Yep. And especially in a room like this, when everyone in here is hungry for knowledge and looking to go somewhere, you're in a positive space, right? So when you're in a room like that, it's the prime opportunity for you to talk about your why, to talk about why are you here? It's a great question to start with. Hey, my name is, why are you here? What even made you show up? And you'll be surprised how you can connect with individuals that way. So I don't know if that's what you were asking, but I know for me, being someone who people scared me at one particular point in time. I had to learn how to network, and that helped me tremendously in growing my business.
Beautiful. I was told we have to wrap up in just one moment. We'll take the last question. But to respond to your question, you got to get some folks around you who want you to win, and you want them to win as well. I think one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to networking is I have to have a pitch. I have to have something I'm selling. I think when you think about networking, think about the relationship that you can build. Connect with people based off of the things that they enjoy. They're from Chicago, talk about Chicago popcorn, whatever it is that you can connect with them. And then think about it like this. Collect people in a space where you can think about what they're currently doing or what they're aspiring to do, and then add value to them. The first step of adding value, once you add value, people are always looking for, most of the time, how they can reciprocate that value that you added. So the more value you add, it's almost like adding money into your savings account, and you can withdraw from that savings account even if you don't think you want to withdraw. Let's get this question really quickly. Are you ready with your question?
The question I have is for everybody on the podium, because I know a lot of the time, a lot of individuals, especially in the entrepreneur industry, self-doubt themselves, and that be the main reasoning for them not even taking that leap of faith and taking on that business. So I want to ask everyone on the podium, if you were in front of the mirror and you were talking to yourself, what would you tell yourself to push you further into whatever industry that you're getting into?
We'll start to my left, and then we'll close out.
Yeah, that's
Right
easy.
here.
You should have started down there this way.
That's what's to my left.
Yeah,
Oh,
This your left.
so
We
the
all,
end.
we all see it.
We'll start with Kadeem. Y'all all to my left.
Your
Okay, that's
far
right.
left.
My far left, and we'll end right here, and
Look,
then
he's
Lewis
throwing
will
it
be
back.
done.
The mic.
Okay. Speaking to his lapel.
Look.
Just speaking to y'all. Share. There you go.
Oh, I got you. 1 second, I
Teamwork
got you.
makes the
Sharing
dream
is
work.
caring.
All right.
Go ahead.
There you go.
I keep taking it. It's my phone.
Now I'm already.
It's too late. It's too late now, bro.
Now he's gonna sit.
Sit on the furniture.
There you
All right,
go.
cool. Chilling now.
I
Reality
smiled when you
check.
said that. I really did. I smiled when you said that. I tried my best to hide it. I hope y'all didn't see me. Because I literally had to look myself in the mirror yesterday and hype myself up because I was feeling a certain type of way that reminded me of just a time that I don't want to go back to. And number one, the first thing I always tell myself when I'm feeling down is that I'm a king, period. And I don't say that from the sense of feeling like I have dominion over any one person or body, but I say that from the sense of knowing who I am and whose I am and where my family comes from and what they've been through. I have a very strong connection with my family and just understanding their story and understanding how we even got to where we are now. I know that that's the blood in the cloth that I'm cut from. So that's the first thing I always tell myself is I'm a king. And number two, I reference a point in my life where I did actually feel happy and amazing. And I take my mind back to that point. And I just start to speak to myself from there. But that's a great question. And I think it's important for all of us when we wake up every morning to speak positively to ourselves because there's so many, like spirits are real. And unbeknownst to us, when we have communication with people, their spirits interact with ours. And if we aren't able to be spiritually combative in this crazy world that we're in, then we will start to feel a particular way inside. And we have to arm ourselves and arm our spirits every day before we step outside to endure that war. So I'm so glad you asked that question, and I'm gonna sit back and learn because I need some new tactics myself. So that's a good one.
If everyone could just give the saying, whatever the saying is that you say to yourself, just that alone, because Lewis is wrapping us up. We've
Come
got
on,
to
Lou.
go.
You said to turn
Y'all, let's
this
give it up for
platform
Lewis.
out.
He is one of the hardest working people over at Operation Hope and helped to organize the next gen portion of it, and it has been just a phenomenal day so far. So just the saying, what do you look at yourself in the mirror, that 5-second saying that you say to yourself when you look in the mirror?
To be honest, it's kind of hard to do that. The only reason why I say that is because I don't have a 5-second relationship with myself.
Okay.
And so I don't think any of us do. You know what I mean? We live with ourselves every day, day in and day out, and it is a little more complex. But what I will say is, it's kind of more of questions. You know what I mean? It's like, what do you need? Where are you at? How do you feel right now? Why do you feel that way? And I'm asking those questions because I hope these are questions that we begin to ask ourselves, period, to better get to know ourselves. Because even how she asked about relationships, who are you surrounding yourself with? It's hard to really know who's good for you if you don't know you. So it's really just those questions, because there may be days where you feel off and nothing happened. Nothing happened in like the world, but inside something is a little off. So it's kind of like, okay, what is that? What do I need to do? For you, it may be exercise. It may be getting sleep. It may be something as simple as that. So I would just say it's knowing what questions to ask yourself. And for me, it's constantly, why do you feel how you feel today? And then reminding myself, that I'm still here, and I'm still here for a reason. And until I'm gone, that reason is here.
I'm so happy you asked this question, bro, because every single day I start my day with affirmations. And so I have them and I'm gonna share them with you guys. But I'm gonna go line by line. I'm gonna tell you, after you repeat them after me, how much I want you to observe how different you feel, okay? So the first one is, today is my day.
Today is my day.
I deserve to prosper in everything I do.
I deserve to prosper in everything I do.
I am worthy of my dreams.
I am worthy of my dreams.
I will not let fear keep me from my purpose.
I will not let fear keep me from my purpose.
Whatever challenges come my way,
Whatever challenges come my way,
I can overcome them.
I can overcome them.
I am humble and hungry.
I am humble and hungry.
I'm attracting powerful, positive, and healthy people into my life. That's a lot. That's a lot.
In my life.
What he said, that part.
It's easier when you read
That
it.
part.
Today is full of possibilities.
Today is full of possibilities.
Today I am moving towards my best life.
Today I'm moving towards my best life.
How do you feel?
Yes.
Y'all can catch that on my Instagram at It's Rafa's World. It's on this picture. Zoom into that camera.
You supposed to take a selfie when you do that.
So
Okay.
that's what I do.
That is an excellent question, and I feel that that is a habit that everybody should embrace. Talking to yourself. We think of it as being kooky, crazy. But talking to yourself is actually awesome. And then talking back to yourself is even better because now you're playing both sides. So it gives you perspective. So what I would say is, stay true to what you know. A lot of times we get out here, we fake the funk and pretend that we know something. We get caught up. We get ourselves caught up in situations and backed up in a corner. You never want to be that person. The other thing is never be, afraid of what you don't know. If you don't know it, you're okay, because you don't know it, okay? And always be open to learn more, because you don't know it all. And there's someone smarter than you, and you always want to surround yourself with someone that is smarter than you. If you're the only person that's smart in the room, then you don't know nothing. Okay? So, yes, talk to yourself every day, but that's what I will be telling myself every day, reminding myself of those three things. And I feel that my day is going to go great.
That's awesome.
It's crazy that she said talk to yourself, because I recently got back into talking to myself, and the one thing that I say to myself every day is the list that needs you is longer than the list that feeds you.
Okay.
So and I kind of like text myself. I got it saved in my phone. I saved my same number as Brain. So I text Brain sometimes, and one thing that I text Brain the other day was you take your eye off what you was doing and you focus on the next. Then you step outside your character and you end up taking an L. Not a loss, but a lesson. Stick to what it is you do. Everybody got their own niche. What I observe is that when you get caught up in the next person, you start competing and you step outside your niche and you step outside your character. So basically, like what she said is, you need to stick to what it is that you do, and just like Nipsey Hussle say, the marathon continues. You just got to run the path. You know what I mean? Every single day, you stack a brick. Sooner or later, you come back and have a brick wall.
Period.
You know what I mean? So.
Facts.
We got a mic. We need to
Drop the microphone. Listen.
They speaking to my soul. Okay,
Listen, this has
okay.
been such a great session. I think what I tell myself, Tobiah, is what is Tobiah Rocker doing today, and how can I outdo him? No, I'm just playing. But I always ask myself, what can I do today to make the world a better place? And that's, I think, why the trajectory of my life has been so positive, because it's like, okay, who can I help today? And because that fuels me. So who can I help today? And I just find people to help. And those of you know me that know that's what I do. So thank you so much, Louis.
Awesome. Let's give them another round of applause. And before they leave, they may have already said it, but can you guys just go real quick and say how we can stay in touch with you guys on social media or your emails or whatever? Again, Kadeem Dunwell from Young Entrepreneurs. Best place to reach me is on Instagram at YE_ATL. That's at YE_ATL. Or you can do at YE_ATL Foundation for Young Entrepreneurs of Atlanta. That's at YE_ATL Foundation. Thank you.
All right, 3 times.
So, You can reach me on Instagram as well at Davion Zaire. That's DAVION ZIER to the E. So Davion Zaire on Instagram. You can sign up for Culturebase at culturebase.city. And the last thing I want to say is the words that I do actually say, I thought about this, and I say this about 100 times a day, is thank you.
Oh,
Thank
bless
you.
your heart.
Let's go there.
Yes.
So I remembered that.
Bless up. That's, yes.
I don't know why I need this mic, but I'm gonna keep it. Sorry. The best way you can get in contact with me is right when I walk off the stage and shake my hand. I would love to meet you. The second best way is Instagram, at It's Rafa's World. Sorry about that. And our business page is at It Media Collective.
Yeah, you took my thunder. You know when somebody say something good, you want to be the one to say it too. So everything he said used to me, okay? But no, the best way to reach me right now is on Instagram, CAU_Finlit. You can follow me on there. We have updates for the students that are in school, college students, high school students. If you're looking for information as far as saving, budgeting, scholarships, startup for entrepreneurship, all of that information you can find me, CAU_Finlit, Instagram. Finlit, FINLIT. Lit. Financial literacy. How you like that, don't you?
Financially lit.
Okay.
The best way to contact me is my personal Instagram is datfellacrump _DATFELLA.
He's from South.
That's real country, but I
He's from
also
South
manage.
Florida, y'all.
Yeah, I also manage another Instagram, Black Wallet Org, Black Wallet, like the wallet that you carry, org, and also
Got a little bougie on the second.
I also run a website that's for that. It gives financial literacy tips for urban millennials called blackwallet.org. So everything that happens financially, we also have people that blog from all across the country of the United States, from California to New York, from South Miami to all over the place, that we're all connected. So anybody that has or in the financial background, you can get with me to actually start blogging on my site as well. But Black Wallet Org and datfellacrump.
And you can follow me at Mr. Opportunity, MROPPORTUNITY, the one and only, on Instagram and on Twitter as well. And I think on Facebook as well.
Where are you not at, man?
Or you can go to.
You're everywhere, bro.
I have a new book coming out July 10th. It's called Pushing Past the Pain.
Plug.
And it's my 5th book. And you can go to pushingpastthepain.com and you can read up and connect that way as well. I don't, but you can go online and you can purchase it at pushingpastthepain.com. Pushing Past the Pain. Pushingpastthepain.com.
Let's give them another round of applause, everybody. Let's also give this fabulous shoe game a round of applause that's on the panel. Amen.